The hospital hallway smelled of antiseptic and anxiety. Marcus Chen sat in the cold plastic chair, his 7-year-old daughter Emma coloring beside him, her small hand occasionally reaching for his. He'd just signed the final consent forms, papers that would change his life, though not in any way he could have imagined. In 12 hours, surgeons would remove one of his kidneys and transplant it into a stranger. His friends thought he was crazy. His ex-wife had called him irresponsible. But Marcus had made peace with his decision months ago, the day he'd registered as a donor and received the call that he was a match for someone desperately waiting to live. What Marcus didn't know was that the woman on the other side of those operating room doors was Victoria Sterling, the enigmatic CEO of Sterling Technologies, a company worth $47 billion. A woman whose face graced the covers of business magazines, whose decisions moved markets, whose life looked perfect from every conceivable angle. A woman who was, in reality, dying alone. Marcus's journey to that hospital chair had begun 2 years earlier, in the aftermath of his divorce. His wife had left him for a software engineer in Seattle, someone who could provide the life she'd always wanted, the big house, the luxury cars, the vacation homes. Marcus, a middle school art teacher, could offer none of those things. What he could offer was love, creativity, and an unwavering commitment to their daughter. The courts had given him primary custody, recognizing what his ex-wife's lawyer had accidentally revealed, that she saw Emma more as an obligation than a joy. Single fatherhood had transformed Marcus in ways he'd never anticipated. The late nights helping with homework, the morning rush to get Emma to school while managing his own classes, the careful budgeting that turned every dollar into $3, it had all taught him something profound about what really mattered. Material wealth, he'd discovered, was just noise. The real currency of life was time, attention, and the small moments of connection that most people rushed past without noticing. One evening, while Emma was staying with his mother, Marcus had watched a documentary about organ donation. A father had lost his teenage son in a car accident and chose to donate his organs. 5 people lived because of that choice. The man had said something that stuck with Marcus: "In the worst moment of my life, I found a way to create meaning. My son's heart is still beating somewhere. His legacy is literally keeping people alive." That night, Marcus registered as a living donor. He was healthy, rarely drank, didn't smoke. His blood type was O negative, the universal donor. If he could help someone, why wouldn't he? The decision felt less like bravery and more like basic human decency. The call came 8 months later. They'd found a match. A woman in her late 30s was in kidney failure, her time running out. Was Marcus still willing? He didn't hesitate. Emma was scared at first, worried that something might happen to her daddy, the only parent who'd truly chosen her every single day. Marcus held her close and explained that sometimes being a good person meant taking risks to help others, that this was the kind of world he wanted her to grow up in, one where strangers took care of each other. Victoria Sterling's story was different but equally lonely. She'd built an empire from a small startup in her garage, working 100-hour weeks, sacrificing relationships, health, and peace of mind. By 38, she had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. Her kidneys had begun failing 3 years ago, the result of an autoimmune disease she'd ignored for too long, too focused on the next product launch, the next acquisition, the next billion. Her wealth, ironically, had made everything harder. Potential donors disappeared when background checks revealed who she was, afraid of being accused of seeking money. Her assistant had managed the donor search with the discretion usually reserved for corporate mergers, keeping Victoria's identity hidden. The woman lying in the hospital bed the night before the transplant wasn't a CEO, she was just patient number 7241, someone running out of tomorrows. The surgery took 11 hours. Marcus woke up in a fog of anesthesia, his side burning with pain that felt both distant and immediate. Emma's drawing was taped to the wall where he could see it, a crayon picture of her daddy as a superhero, cape and all. He smiled despite the discomfort. In the recovery room next door, Victoria was waking up too, her body already accepting the kidney that would give her a second chance at life. Hospital policy kept donors and recipients separate initially, but Victoria had made a request through her assistant. She wanted to meet the man who'd saved her life. The hospital arranged it for 3 days after the surgery, when both were stable enough for visitors. Marcus shuffled into the meeting room in his hospital gown and slippers, still moving carefully, protecting his incision. He expected someone young, maybe a mother with small children, or perhaps someone elderly trying to squeeze out a few more years with grandchildren. He didn't expect the woman sitting upright in the chair, her posture perfect despite the obvious discomfort, wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than his annual salary. "You're the donor," Victoria said, her voice soft with emotion she clearly wasn't accustomed to showing. "You're Marcus Chen. And you're the recipient," Marcus replied, sitting down slowly. "Nice to meet you, finally." They stared at each other for a long moment. Victoria had prepared a speech, something about gratitude and how she'd compensate him, how she'd set up trust funds and pay off debts. But looking at this ordinary man with kind eyes and a superhero drawing visible through the window from his room, the rehearsed words died in her throat. "Why did you do it?" she asked instead. "You don't even know me." Marcus considered the question. "I guess I don't think that matters. You needed help. I could help. Isn't that enough?" Victoria felt something crack open inside her chest, something that had been frozen for years. She'd spent decades believing that everything had a price, that every transaction required calculation and leverage. But this man had given her the most valuable thing imaginable and wanted nothing in return. It was incomprehensible. It was beautiful. "I'm Victoria Sterling," she said quietly. "Sterling Technologies." Marcus blinked. Even he, who barely followed business news, knew that name. "Oh, wow. Congratulations on your success." She laughed, actually laughed, for the first time in months. "I have $47 billion, Marcus. And I almost died alone in a hospital because I never understood what you seem to know instinctively." "What's that?" "That we're all just people. That money doesn't make you more deserving of life or love or kindness. That sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is help someone for no reason except that they need help." Over the following weeks, as both recovered, an unlikely friendship bloomed. Victoria met Emma, who was completely unimpressed by billionaire status but very impressed that Victoria knew how to code. Marcus learned about Victoria's lonely childhood, her drive to succeed masking a desperate need to prove her worth. Victoria learned about Marcus's art, his students, his philosophy of life that prioritized experiences over possessions. The story might have ended there, grateful CEO, humble donor, a nice tale of two lives intersecting. But something deeper was growing. Victoria found herself texting Marcus about her day, sharing frustrations she'd never admitted to anyone. Marcus found himself excited to hear her perspective, intrigued by her brilliant mind and the vulnerable heart she'd kept so carefully hidden. 6 months after the surgery, Victoria made an announcement that shocked the business world. She was stepping back from daily operations, appointing a new CEO, and creating a foundation dedicated to organ donation awareness and living donor support. More shocking to those who knew her was the man she'd chosen to help run it, a middle school art teacher with no business experience but a deep understanding of what the foundation needed to be. Marcus didn't quit teaching, that would always be his first love. But he helped Victoria channel her resources towards something meaningful, something that saved lives and built communities. Emma gained an unexpected friend who taught her about technology and ambition. Victoria gained a family she'd never thought she'd have. They fell in love slowly, cautiously, two people learning to trust in something neither had believed existed. Not a fairy tale romance but something more real, a partnership built on the foundation of the most selfless act one human can perform for another. On a quiet evening 2 years after the transplant, as Emma did homework at the kitchen table and Marcus cooked dinner, Victoria wrapped her arms around him from behind, feeling the steady beat of her heart, powered partly by the kidney he'd given her, and whispered thank you for the 1000th time. Marcus turned, kissing her forehead. "You know what the funny thing is? I thought I was just doing a good deed. I had no idea I was meeting my future." "Neither did I," Victoria smiled. "Turns out the best things in life aren't things at all. They're people who show you what it means to be human." Outside, the city lights twinkled against the darkening sky, each one representing a story, a life, a chance for connection. And in that modest apartment that Victoria now called home more than her penthouse, 3 people who'd found each other through an act of extraordinary ordinary kindness shared a meal, shared laughter, and shared the kind of wealth that no bank account could ever hold.